This map depicts the Levant Mine, which is located underground. The tunnels you see branch out for over 1.5 million kilometers beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Imagine the fear of being deep inside these tunnels, with millions of tons of water above you. The entrance to the Levant Mine is on the coast. It holds a notorious title, the scariest mine in the world. Let's see why. Dangerous jobs are found everywhere, but if we go back 100 years, most jobs were even more hazardous, some even deadly. Even today, with all the technological advancements, working inside mines remains among the toughest jobs. When you look at these tunnels, you might wonder what kind of machinery dug them, but you should know that these mines date back to 1840, a time when there was no electricity or advanced tools to aid humans. Essentially, all these mines were dug with picks and shovels, not in well-lit areas with sufficient oxygen, but rather in dimly lit conditions with minimal oxygen, making the work even more challenging. The Levant Mine was initially for copper, but as work progressed, it was discovered that there was also a significant amount of tin. When copper and tin are found together, what does it mean? It means you can make bronze. This new discovery led the mine to become one of the largest in England. We're talking about the mid-19th century when mining was at its toughest. Whether in England, India, or Africa, mines were hazardous places during those times. But the Levant Mine was a step above. Descending 600 meters underground, it spread out like the roots of a tree in all directions. Imagine a human going down to a depth of 600 meters into the earth. Seeing a 10-meter shaft would terrify them. So how could one go down to a depth of 600 meters? When you look at the map of this mine, you don't immediately see the problems. The tunnels that extend under the ocean's surface are highly risky because a sudden increase in ocean pressure could breach them, flooding the tunnels. If such an event were to occur, the lower parts of the tunnels would collapse, and everything and everyone would drown. All the workers in this mine had to wear special suits because the great depth of the mine caused heat from the Earth's core to penetrate, making it extremely hot down there with temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. No fan, no air conditioning could alleviate it. Due to the lack of air conditioning, workers were forced to strip off their clothes and even remove their boots because the great depth of the mine caused heat from the Earth's core to penetrate, making it extremely hot down there, with temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. They had the experience to understand that if their feet remained sweaty inside their boots, it could lead to infections. Much like the soldiers during World War I who kept their feet inside their boots for extended periods, causing infections. Therefore, the mine workers had to work barefoot. They used candles inside the mine to see because there was no other source of light available. The tunnels of the mine progressed day by day, but the management was not satisfied with the pace of work, considering it too slow. It was at this time that Alfred Nobel invented dynamite. The mine officials thought, Alfred Nobel has invented such a great tool for speeding up work. So they brought dynamite to the mine, and it was decided that the workers would go to the end of the tunnels, drill holes, place dynamite there, light the fuse, and then retreat. After the explosion, when the dust settled, the workers would gather the debris with picks to clear the way and move forward. These workers worked 7 days a week, spending 15 hours a day in the mine. When their shift ended, they would stand in line to climb the ladder to the surface. Imagine climbing 600 meters up a ladder. 600 meters is approximately the height of the One World Trade Center in New York. It might be hard to believe that these workers spent 3 hours a day climbing up or down the ladders. During this time, whether going up or down, they were not paid. Back then, it might have been considered normal, but today it's distressing. Many of the mine workers were around 14 or 15 years old. There was no other mine in the world at such a depth. The mine officials realized that a lot of time was wasted by the workers, so they eventually installed an elevator for such a deep mine. It was in constant motion, with workers stepping on and off as it ascended or descended. With this elevator, the time spent going up and down was reduced to 1 hour. Years passed, and the tunnels became deeper and deeper, with many people engaged in working in them. However, the safety of this mine was zero. The owners of this mine did not consider the fact that 700 people were working underground every day until October 20th, 1919. Most of the miners in this mine were those who had been engaged in the trenches of World War I just a year earlier. Now they had returned home and found a job, one that was even worse than the war itself. Those who had been in the trenches of World War I constantly told the mine officials that the situation was dire, meaning the tunnels were not safe at all. The officials would reply, "Just gather the copper and tin and bring it up. Don't worry about the safety of the tunnels." The miners, being forced to comply eventually on October 20th, 1919, the ceilings, which had been supported with wooden beams decades earlier, suddenly started collapsing. When the upper tunnels collapsed onto the lower ones, the lower tunnels collapsed even further down, and this domino effect caused the tunnels to collapse on top of each other. Fortunately, it was the end of the day, and there were only 370 people inside the mine. Some of them were killed, and the rest were trapped behind the rubble, unable to come out. One of the miners, named John Greenfield, who had emerged from the mine just before the collapse, heard a loud noise behind him and told everyone that something had happened down below. Since such a loud noise had never been heard from below before, no one paid attention to his words. However, he returned down below to see what had happened. When he reached the bottom, he saw that the tunnel had collapsed, creating something like a pit, and even corpses could be seen on the soil and wood. He was certain that something had happened, and went back up to inform the others. Fortunately, a telephone had recently been connected to the Levant Mine. They immediately called the nearby mines for help, and assistance arrived quickly, along with a variety of tools. Most importantly, they brought winches with them. The way they used it was ingenious. They would hang it down, and someone could hang on to it and go down because there were no ladders left and no other way down. The only way was to descend in this manner. They would use these winches to pull up the bodies that had fallen, and then the cumbersome task began. They had to fill buckets with soil and use these winches to lift them up to rescue the people. On the other hand, the workers who were trapped below immediately started working with their hands, digging slowly to find a way out. Fortunately, the water pipe that had come from outside was accessible, and they could drink water. The round-the-clock rescue efforts continued. The trapped workers had no food. They only had water. If they didn't even have water, they would die very quickly. While there was no communication between the workers below and those above, the latter knew that the workers below had no food, so they worked quickly. The work continued uninterrupted for 72 hours until they succeeded and reached each other, but not all of them were alive. Most of them were dead, and some had become weak and died due to hunger. This happened at the end of the day when half of the workers had already left. However, only 31 people were killed below. If this had happened just 1 or 2 hours earlier, almost all the workers would have been killed below. 5 of them were those who had participated in World War I the previous year and had managed to survive the war, only to come and find a job for themselves to work and live. But unfortunately, they lost their lives in this mine. It's troubling how someone can survive such a dangerous war like World War I, only to find work here and die in such a manner. Now, why is the story of this mine so important? This incident led to a serious consideration of safety in mines, especially in Europe. Since then, fatalities in mines have significantly decreased, and efforts have been made to provide safer equipment for miners. However, despite modern technology, mining remains one of the most dangerous jobs in the world.